Hello, and welcome back. This is my series where I tell you more about the Empyrean Lords. We go very much in detail with their involvements in the world of Atreya, and also cover some rumors about them. This time we cover the Empyrean Lord of Justice, Lord Nezekan. While he is more reserved, thoughtful, and cautious, he acts very swiftly once he has reached a decision. And obviously he tries to be as fair as possible in his decision making. As his title already says, he is symbolized by justice, with his card showing a heavily armored knight with a sword and a shield. With an extra emphasis on his shield, it's called Azphel, the Shield of Mystery. And it is indeed a mystery, because some rumors speak of Azphel as a powerful shield or relic, whilst nobody really can say anything specific about its power. And then there are other rumors that say that Azphel is only a normal shield, that is simply a symbol for protection and Lord Nezekan's resilience. We simply do not know if either of these rumors are true, but what we do know is that there was a very decorated legion in the Abyss War that took their name from Lord Nezekan's shield Azphel, with the saying, "Like Azphel, they protect us from the threats of the Valar and the Asmodeans." In terms of power, we know that he is equally strong to Lady Triniel, and that means he should also be around the power level of Lord Siel. Lord Nezekan's relic is hard to describe other than that it looks like a shield with a jewel or an eye in the center. Now let's get into Lord Nezekan's story. There were rumors that Lord Nezekan and Lady Triniel got along very well, that they even had a secret relationship, but those who saw them bitterly fight each other in the opening days of the Abyss War give little credit to such thoughts. It is known that they do not get along now, though they are secretive as to the reason why. To uncover this secret very early on in Aeon, you had to do a bit of reading. In a book called Legend of Eltnen 3, a place called Kahrun's Playground is mentioned. It tells of two Empyrean lords in ancient Atreya that loved each other and met as frequently as possible, while evading the suspicions of others. The two Empyrean lords being Lord Nezekan and Lady Triniel, even though it is never mentioned in the book itself. Lord Nezekan even sent one of his men named Vaizel to Lady Triniel to protect and serve her. Vaizel was a Templar, and Templars only served Nezekan at that time. But since Lady Triniel was the love of Lord Nezekan, Vaizel was the first Templar that served another lord. His skills were not to be underestimated either, as Lady Triniel had appointed him as the Brigade General of the Red Sky Legion, one of the most legendary legions of ancient Atreya. Eventually their love produced a child, and they were overwhelmed by both joy and fear. Their child was a true blessing. He let them know true happiness. They named him Kahrun. Although they were unable to care for Kahrun directly, the two Empyrean lords wanted to do something for him, as any parent would. Thus they built a playground for Kahrun, the biggest and most wonderful playground in all worlds. They chose a suitable place, far from any other creature, and cast magic spells upon it to prevent any intrusion. No other being could enter the playground, and it became all but invisible. The two Empyrean lords, Triniel and Nezekan, placed all kinds of creatures in the playground, from tiny grasses to huge monsters. They wanted Kahrun to experience all aspects of the world, but because his very existence was taboo, he would never be allowed to walk freely, so long as he lived. They had to hide him at all costs. At first, Kahrun thrived inside the huge playground. To him it seemed to be the entire world. But the Empyrean lords were so busy looking after important affairs in Atreya that they could not visit him frequently. They felt ashamed that they couldn't be there more for the child. But the most miserable one was Kahrun. Left alone in the huge playground, he grew up without anyone to nurture him, without anyone to teach him, and over time he became more and more violent. As the child of the two Empyrean lords, he possessed great power, and when he realized that, he began destroying the playground his parents had built, and found it delightful to take the lives of the creatures imprisoned with him. Seeing this change in their child, the two Empyrean lords became filled with regret and anguish. They decided to beg Aeon's pardon and implore him to recognize their child, so that he could be freed and they could teach him and push him in another direction, away from the violent tendencies he had developed. Aeon's answer was a great thunder. Triniel and Nezekan rushed to Kahrun's playground, only to discover a horrifying sight. The playground was completely destroyed, leaving no trace of life, and Kahrun was not to be found anywhere. Overwhelmed by grief, Triniel screamed in distress. The heartbreaking sound resonated across the land, drawing forth a black rain of grief from the clouds. The two Empyrean lords turned their backs upon the destroyed playground and left. The pain of their grief separated them forever, and with this ends the story of the two Empyrean lords who loved and gave birth to a child. At least that is what the book says. Kahrun's playground is the place that today is known as the Arrakis Temple Cavern in Eltnen. There's another storybook which tells us more about this. It is called The History of Eltnen Fortress. After the Ilios found a big rift in Verteron, they feared that there could be another abyss portal that the Belau or Asmodeans could use to invade Elysia. The focus is on a dangerous forest on the most northwestern parts of Eltnen. The forest was very dense, and there was always a thick fog which made navigation almost impossible. Due to this, many people have been reported to have gone missing there, and therefore most sane people, even experienced hunters, avoided this forest. Sanctum assumed that the high amount of people that had gone missing there could be related to an undiscovered abyss gate, so they sent an experienced exploration team there to investigate. Unintimidated, they ignored the fog and kept going further into the forest. They came across a strange wall. Every time they tried to get closer, the wall threatened to collapse and bury them under tons of stones. After many close attempts, they managed to get past the wall and found their feet mired in weird magic. Someone or something tried really hard to keep them away. However, the experienced exploration team moved on and found a beautiful valley divided by a clear river of fresh water and abundant with food-bearing plants and trees. As they moved forward, they finally found the Abyss Gate in Eltnen. Since the Abyss War was in full swing, it was very important to clean up this area and to construct a fortress here. The construction of the fortress was very slow because the thick fog made it hard to see anything. Until one day, completely unannounced and surprising to everyone, Nezekan showed up at the construction site in Eltnen. He murmured the words, "What needs to be hidden is already," and then he cast a spell that made the fog clear up and vanish. His words obviously mean Kahrun. Kahrun needed to be hidden from the world, because he was the taboo child of two Empyrean lords. But since Aeon had killed Kahrun with the Great Thunder, there was no reason to keep the fog and the other traps that Nezekan and Triniel put up active. If you want to learn more about this specific topic, I will link a video in the description that explains a bit more about Kahrun and the love of the two Empyrean lords. But let's move on. Nezekan is also involved in the Deltras story. I will not go into too much detail with the Deltras story, but let me try to explain it in a few sentences. 250 years after the Cataclysm, many rifts started to appear in Elysia, more precisely in Verteron. Nezekan and his legions built a fortress there, right below the first big fissure that appeared in Elysia. He summoned some of his best devas, including Deltras, the brigade general of the Storm Legion. Nezekan sent Deltras and his legion into the rift to explore and secure it. When it comes to personality, Deltras surely was the exact opposite of Nezekan. Nezekan was very uptight, whilst Deltras didn't really care about luxury or shiny clothes that are decorated with jewels. This also led to a very funny incident where Deltras refused to wear his silver parade armor until Lord Nezekan himself directly ordered him to wear it. But despite the difference in personality and taste, Deltras was absolutely loyal towards Nezekan, and people also assumed that Nezekan valued Deltras. Again, without going into too much detail, Deltras and his Storm Legion ultimately arrived in Morheim, in Asmodee. There, they were greeted by none other than the Empyrean Lord of Destruction, Lord Siel. Lord Siel and Lord Nezekan always disliked each other, but despite that, Deltras tried to talk to Siel and explained that he was sent by Lord Nezekan and Lady Ariel to explore these rifts and how they were trying to return home, but instead appeared here in this unknown place. Lord Siel got angry as he heard the names of Nezekan and Ariel. He blames them and hates them for the destruction of the Tower of Eternity. Lord Siel grinned and said, "Kneel before me and insult your Lord Nezekan, then I will let you return home." For someone like the loyal Deltras, insulting his own lord was something that would never happen. Deltras was trembling with anger at Siel's words. With their weapons in hand, Deltras and the Storm Legion charged towards Siel. Siel, angered by the attack of Deltras and the Storm Legion, used his own magic. The members of the Storm Legion fell one after another. To prevent the death of more of his men, Deltras made his decision and said, "I stay here and fight. You must do whatever it takes to return to Sanctum and report this." After shouting this order to his men, he charged towards Siel. And this was the last time Deltras has ever been seen. The Guardians that barely survived headed to Sanctum with their bloodied wings and told the Seraphim Lords what had happened. This incident was what started the Abyss War, and it shouldn't surprise anyone that Nezekan was eager to fight there against the Asmodeans. My personal opinion on this entire situation is that when Lord Nezekan and Lady Triniel gave birth to Kahrun, and later saw how he became more violent, Lord Nezekan convinced Lady Triniel to ask Aeon for his pardon, and to ask him to accept their child. When Aeon's answer was a thunder that apparently killed Kahrun, Lady Triniel in her grief blamed Lord Nezekan, because he convinced her to tell Aeon about it. I think Lord Nezekan's anger towards Triniel only appeared after the Deltras incident, and the realization that Lady Triniel allied herself with a monster like Lord Siel that killed Deltras, who was very important to him in bad blood. Now, as I said, this is only my opinion and could be wrong. Anyway, I will conclude Deltras' story here, but if you want to learn more, I have a video about it that I will link in the description. And there is even a comic that covers the story, that I can absolutely recommend. Up to this point, everything is true for both versions of Aeon, Classic and Retail. And now we go into the Retail story of Aeon, which lets us know a bit more about Lord Nezekan. In the 4.0 patch of Aeon, it is revealed that the rumors about Lord Nezekan and Lady Triniel were true. They were lovers in ancient Atreia, and even had a child. Lady Triniel, and probably also Lord Nezekan, saw the Great Thunder that destroyed Kahrun's playground as Aeon's punishment, and split up. Centuries after this, a being of immense power was discovered, leading the Rayan tribe against Tiamat, a man named Kahrun. But sometime after that, Kahrun went missing. At this point, Lord Nezekan became worried, and set out to personally search for Kahrun under a fake identity. With the help of the player, he finally found Kahrun in the Infinity Shard. As Nezekan tended to Kahrun, Triniel appears, also under a fake identity. They both only recognize each other again after they clash, and agree on a temporary ceasefire, as the two of them take Kahrun away to safety.
My power protects this child.
Equally strong.
I know your power, Triniel.
Nezekan? What are you doing here? Kahrun!
Can we agree to take care of the child together?
For now, let's move somewhere safer.
Many years after that, when the Devas arrive in Absaranta, Lord Nezekan is leading the efforts of finding Inanna and focusing on the conflict with the Asmodeans. So let's conclude everything we know about Lord Nezekan. Before the Cataclysm, he fell in love with the Empyrean lady Triniel, the Lady of Death. When the love produced a child, they were happy, even though the child was considered a taboo, as they both were Empyrean lords. As they saw that hiding their child from others had negative effects on him, they decided to tell Aeon about it and ask for his pardon. Aeon's answer was a thunder that destroyed the child's playground, and as they thought, also killed their child Kahrun. Losing their child and receiving this punishment caused immense grief to them both, which resulted in them splitting up and going different paths. Later, he found out that Kahrun was still alive and became the leader of the Rayan tribe. But when he vanished soon after, he became worried about his son, and he personally went there to search for him. He and Triniel found his son Kahrun and teleported him to safety. We do not know what happened after this, only that Lord Nezekan's next appearance was in Absaranta, where he now leads the Ilios troops against the Asmodeans. In Absaranta, Nezekan also expresses his gratitude for the player, for all that we have done. He values us and is happy that we are going into battle on his side. It is nice that we finally have an Empyrean Lord that treats us with respect, because in the end we are not simply anyone, we have done a lot for Elysia. Do you remember the story of the Storm Legion and how people say that Nezekan also valued Deltras? In Absaranta, you get to know 3 of Lord Nezekan's agents. The first agent is Aegis, the Aeon Shield. It is said that she was part of the Storm Legion, and she was married to Deltras. She became a Deva much later in life than usual, but since what happened with Deltras, she became an absolutely terrifying warlord. The second agent is Agent Pridewin, the Righteous One. She is an excellent fighter, brilliant on the battlefield, and is experienced with any weapon. There is a rumor that she is from Akari's village, but we don't know more about it. And the last agent is very interesting. It is Agent Elcid, the Storm Child. He refers to himself as the scion of the Storm Legion. He hates Asmodeans, and especially Lord Siel, because of a personal grudge. The rumor is that he is the son of Deltras and the agent Aegis that I mentioned before. So Nezekan did value Deltras a lot, and now he has not only Deltras' wife as one of his agents, he also has Deltras' son as another one of his agents. And just to point this out, an Empyrean Lord has 4 agents, and meeting the requirements of becoming one is incredibly hard. There is a book with the requirements of becoming an agent that I can put in the description that you can look into yourself. Anyway, I find all of this very interesting, and I'm happy that Deltras is not simply forgotten as a fallen soldier, but instead his wife, his son, and Nezekan himself are fighting to avenge the fallen Deltras, because this is justice. And that is all we know about the Empyrean Lord of Justice, Lord Nezekan. I will leave you with one last info about Nezekan. There is a comic that involves both Triniel and Nezekan. The comic is available for free, but it is only available in Korean. I can definitely recommend checking it out, because Aeon gets not much love in the West with art. The link to the comic will be in the description if you want to read it in Korean or translate it yourself. Or some people in our Discord also translate comics, and maybe you can see something about it there. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you have any more questions, feel free to ask them here in the comments or in our Discord server. In the description you can find the links to the videos of the other Empyrean Lords. Or, if you're watching this very early on, feel free to vote in our Discord server on who we should do next. Have a wonderful day and see you in the next one. Bye.